Salutolava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up, the meth crisis that's sweeping across the region. Also,
I'm happy that the system is working. The siren is on. We've been informed.
Pacific countries come out unscathed post-earthquake, and
it's a huge deal because it's once every 10 years we come together as all.
The Cook Islands officially mark 60 years of self-governance. The prevalence of methamphetamine is causing havoc across the Pacific, with Fiji, Samoa and Tonga amongst nations facing a drugs crisis. The region is used as a supply highway by cartels to the lucrative Australia and New Zealand markets, but the drug is also being traded in smaller Pacific nations. Transnational crime expert Jose Sousa Santos has been tracking methamphetamine in the region. He's an associate professor of practice at the University of Canterbury's Pacific Regional Security Hub. I spoke with him about the crisis and started by asking him what has led to the current situation.
Going back 10 years ago, drug smuggling through the Pacific region towards Australia and New Zealand, which are the cash cow markets of the region, has been happening for quite a while, with no real impact on the region. Criminal syndicates, Chinese triads, cartels would always move the drugs through. Their method was always to pay facilitators, either commercial elites, people connected to government and other high levels of Pacific society. So these people were first being paid in money, so there was no real overflow into Pacific communities. What we then started to see, the next step was these facilitators were given the opportunity to be paid in drugs or methamphetamines instead of money. The issue there was, of course, if you're being paid in drugs, by selling those drugs, you can make more than the agreed upon amount. But to sell those drugs, you need to have a market. And this is where we started to see the development and the growth of a local market, not just in Fiji, but in Tonga and in other Pacific Island countries. And these markets have grown exponentially, linked to human trafficking from the villages into the city, sex work. So as the markets grew, the cartels evolved and realized that, you don't just need to work with one facilitator or two facilitators. You can now engage with, by supporting these criminal entities, Pacific criminal syndicates.
On that note, why Samoa, Fiji or Tonga? What is it about these countries that make it appealing for drug cartels?
Well, we can't forget also Papua New Guinea. These are the hubs of movement of methamphetamines and cocaine from the Americas, from Southeast Asia towards Australia and New Zealand, but also precursors back towards from Asia towards America. This will all be a storm in itself, but to create the perfect storm, the added ingredient was the criminal deportees. Of course, I'm not generalizing, but a small number of these criminal deportees who were not able to reintegrate back into society, especially ones with criminal backgrounds, didn't understand the culture, the languages, no opportunities of work, started to reach back to the criminal counterparts from the countries from which they were deported. These deportees brought a new set of tactics to the Pacific, which Pacific law enforcement was not used to dealing with, and they added aspects and an evolution to drug smuggling activities and criminal enterprise in the region, which previously didn't exist.
All right, what do you think then should be done to address the supply of drugs?
There are several ways to look at this. I mean, if you look at this from a drug smuggling, the drug trafficking routes and the larger cartels, the triads and other syndicates moving the drugs through the Pacific towards Australia and New Zealand, this is where we need to strengthen and work with the regional security architecture, such as the Pacific Island Chiefs of Police, the Pacific Transnational Crime Network, and the Pacific Transnational Crime Coordination Centre. By strengthening and working with the infrastructure, and bringing in all key players such as Federal Police, the Pacific Policing Initiative, Interpol, we'll then be able to have a holistic response from the Pacific towards these threats. So now when you look at the issue of drug usage, and criminality in Pacific Island countries, Pacific Island states themselves, the approach has to be different. It has to be culturally appropriate. It has to be context specific.
So just coming back to the idea of drug cartels, do they see the smaller Pacific nations like Samoa, Fiji and Tonga as easy money?
No. These markets are too small for even to be in their radar. But what we see is that this indigenous regional criminal syndicate and smaller criminal entities or groups within Pacific Island countries like Samoa, Fiji and Tonga, they've now gotten to a point where they realize that the markets are large enough for them to be profitable enough for them. And they're reaching out to new players, smaller players, to import methamphetamines into Pacific Island countries. And I think a good example of that is the recent seizure of 5 kilos of methamphetamines at Nandi Airport. And that involved 2 members of the Fijian Counter-Narcotics Bureau and the head of Customs Intelligence. The involvement and the connection was this parcel of methamphetamines came from the east coast of Africa. And there was also a Nigerian connection to this activity. And what it shows is that these smaller criminal entities within the Pacific themselves have started to reach out and creating their own lines of trafficking to feed the local markets. And that is a whole new dimension, which is very troubling for the Pacific.
Pacific countries have emerged relatively unscathed from a restless night punctuated by tsunami warning sirens. The waves have now rolled on southeastward towards South America, but Wednesday night's events have highlighted for many the importance of preparedness. Lydia Lewis has more.
For a country that frequently goes through natural disasters, Tonga's former Prime Minister Siaosi Sovaleni is happy to see response systems working.
I'm happy that the system is working. The siren is on. We've been informed the expected time for the tsunami. So the population is better informed this time around than the last time. I think it was scary, much more scary back in the Tonga, Hawaii, because nobody knows what's happening. The communication was down.
Having led his country through the 2022 volcano eruption, where a tsunami devastated multiple island communities, Mr. Sovaleni says it's a testament to the country's resilience.
A lot of them are still trying to get over that feeling from the Tonga, Hawaii. So a lot more education, awareness raising and so forth need to happen, not just when we have tsunami warning or when the siren goes off, but throughout the whole year, just to get, especially the young ones, a little bit more comfortable knowing that, we have sirens now, we have a lot more information channel that we can provide information to their parents.
Resident Pelenatita Longopoa says the streets of Nuku'alofa cleared out quickly amid the evacuation.
Right now in Tonga, it's pretty deserted around the city area. There are few vehicles that are still running and there's few shops that are still closed. But business was closed in the main city area before 4 today when we were issued with the tsunami warning.
Things were less expeditious in Hawaii, where intense traffic jams formed across Oahu as authorities evacuated people in coastal communities. Local media Hawaii News Now spoke with panicked evacuees.
Scared, this out of all that I've been through with all the tsunami warnings, this kind of feel really, really more like it's bound to happen, and I'm hoping it doesn't. Praying a lot for our homes, especially those who live close right next to the beach, which I do.
While there are no longer formal warnings or advisory notices in the Pacific, the threat of tsunami waves remains possible throughout the region.
This year's Bougainville election will be a one-day poll involving hundreds of workers across the region. It's thought such a poll has not previously been attempted in Papua New Guinea. The contest on 4th September will feature 408 candidates, including 34 women. Don Wiseman spoke with the Bougainville Electoral Commissioner, Desmond Chianai, about the process and the challenge it presents.
The model that we are using for this election is a one-day polling model, and polling will actually be on the 4th of September.
So there'll be polling across the country for just one day?
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that's a major logistic challenge for you?
Yes, that is true. We've taken all the necessary steps and planning to ensure that we cover all the polling sites and that all the polling sites have access to the closest or the nearest polling teams on the 4th of September.
How many polling stations? For an area spread like Bougainville is spread, you must have dozens and dozens and dozens, have you?
Yes, that is correct. We have around 540 plus polling stations. Therefore, we'll have around 540 plus polling teams. And that is just for the resident Bougainvillians. We also have the out-of-constituency polling places, and that would be located in the 5 provinces of the country. And that would be in Port Moresby, Morobe, East New Britain, Madang, Eastern Highlands provinces.
Now, this one-day polling hasn't been done before in Papua New Guinea, has it?
I would say so. We've tried the one-day polling in Bougainville back in 2019 for the Bougainville referendum. We saw that it worked in a sense, and then we further trial the one-day polling model in a couple of by-elections leading into 2025 election. So from 2019 to 2025, or between 2019 and 25, we had a couple of by-elections in which we trialed the one-day polling. And then we saw that it sort of worked to our advantage. And in the process, we addressed some major issues in terms of transparency and to minimize the opportunity or the multiple voting by voters.
So in terms of a general election covering an entire region, this is the first attempt at doing it in one day.
That is correct.
You've got over 400 candidates. How many exactly?
408 to be exact.
And how many women?
We also have reserved seats for women, and a total of 14 women candidates contested for the reserved seats across North, South, and Central Bougainville. And then we have, for the single-member constituencies, a further 20 female candidates contested for the open seat. So we have a total of 34 women contesting in this election.
And that's a record as well, I imagine.
Yes, that is correct.
There were 2 women who won for the first time in open seats in the last election. Would you expect that to increase this year?
Well, the 2 women that contested in the 2020 election nominated and contesting in this election. In terms of their chances of coming back, that's hugely dependent on the women themselves and the performance over the 5 years and whether people would want them to go back into government. But that's basically dependent on the performance of those members. But in terms of new women going into parliament, again, it's depending on the perspective of the people and what the people think in terms of the previous government and what they would want the next government in terms of women being members of the parliament and what the women can deliver and contribute to the political aspirations of Bougainville.
Now, one day of polling, as we say, and a lot of staff for you to organise. The counting process will take how long after that?
We have 2 weeks after polling to conduct the scrutiny of the ballot papers, the counting of the ballot papers, and to return the wreaths on the 22nd of September. Counting will actually start on the 9th of September, and we're planning to finish counting on the 21st of September and return the wreath to the Speaker of Parliament on the 22nd of September.
And the counting will all happen in a central place?
Counting will be distributed along the 3 regional centres. For South, it will be in Buin, Central in Arawa. In Boca, we'll have 2 counting centres, and that is for the presidential seat and the single-member constituency seats.
Do you anticipate issues?
Well, it's in all elections we encounter issues, but we're hoping that this time around, with the advanced scrutiny and candidate forum that we are conducting at the moment, we're hoping to minimize issues during polling and counting, and thereby having a smooth polling and counting exercises.
What about policing? Is there going to be additional policing?
Right now, the planning is to have the current police personnel available in Buka, in Bougainville, stretch over South, Central, and North Bougainville. So we'll use the current police personnel that we have, and we are collaborating with the Chief of Police, the Bougainville Police Service to ensure that we have police personnel providing security and just making sure the environment is peaceful for people to go to poll and especially to do the counting.
All right. And what about in terms of international observers? Are any coming in?
For the international observers, as you may know, the current political arrangement between Papua New Guinea and Bougainville, OBEC requests through the Office of the President, who then requests through the PNG government to extend the invitation to observe the election. However, we haven't been receiving any response from both parties, from the ABG and the PNG government. But we are hopeful that the PNG government would respond, extend the invitation to especially the international observers. We do have interest from domestic observers, but we would very much want to have the international observers observe the elections this year.
The biggest event on the Cook Islands calendar is in full swing. Constitutional celebrations called Te Mai Vanui are underway to mark 60 years of self-governance. But it comes when the Cook Islands-New Zealand relationship is in poor shape. Caleb Fotheringham has more.
Big shows and lots of fun. But it comes at a prickly point in the Cook Islands-New Zealand relationship, largely stemming from what Wellington viewed as a lack of consultation over deals the island nation signed with China in February. Foreign Minister Winston Peters is challenging Prime Minister Mark Brown to have a referendum on independence if he no longer wants to abide by the arrangement the two nations have.
If there's going to be a change, then you've got to consult with guess who? The Cook Island people. That's what we're obliged to do. And not just there, we've got the diaspora of 94,000 who live in this country and also live in, no doubt, Australia and other parts of the world. And so they would like to be consulted too, we believe.
Mr Brown has made several comments insinuating a double standard, saying New Zealand does not consult him on its deals with China. But Mr Peters says that's never been needed.
No one from the time we started, or going through to Norman Kirk's time, or going further into the present, in 2001, when the Prime Minister Clark and Prime Minister Moate came to that agreement, no one would describe it in that way.
For many who are celebrating, the political rift feels far away.
We're just celebrating us as a nation right now, so yeah, none of that matters right now.
That's Maiva Masters. She's leading the team from the remote Palmerston Island, which is only accessible by boat. The island has a population of 28 people. 16 of them have made the trip to be at the constitutional celebrations in Rarotonga.
It's a huge deal because it's once every 10 years we come together as all. For us out there, get to come together with other islands within the Cook Islands. So it's a huge deal.
Terry Petty, who works for the Ministry of Finance, is setting up a stand that sells special minted coins marking the big 60th.
This is to celebrate the journey of the Cook Islands people, where you can see there's the turtle and the fish travelling together in the ocean. So that's why we are people of the ocean.
Like Ms Masters, he's not thinking about New Zealand.
For me, I'm here celebrating and people are celebrating, so we're enjoying it. We don't worry about the political side. Let the politicians look after that side. We just look after our people.
Aotearoa paused nearly $20 million in development funding in June, citing the lack of consultation for the reason. Academics say the agreements could undermine New Zealand's national security, while Brown has maintained there's nothing to worry about. Mr Peters says if anything bothers him about the contents of the deals, that will remain only heard in private conversations with the Cook Islands government.
Look, speculating on that and the value and the content and the dimension, the breadth and the depth of the agreements, it's not what this is about. This is about solving a constitutional crisis that has arisen, not of New Zealand's making.
At the hostel housing people from Northern Group Island Puka Puka, team leader Roro Ryakabor has no interest in being independent.
We, the people, we don't like that. We don't want to separate our relationship with New Zealand. We want to be with New Zealand because they are the one, they look after us for 60 years.
There's plenty more performances to come, with the 4th of August being the big day, marking 60 years of free association with New Zealand. Missing will be Mr. Peters and Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, but for the most part, it doesn't seem like the locals will care too much.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, sui fua.